from Robbie Power for Jessica Harrington, made all, and even with True Self coming through there tight at the finish, I think the 8 pound just caught up on the little horse. He was shoved wide throughout under a little bit of pressure and didn't deliver. 14 does the job in the 255 in Killarney. We're off to Suddle. The two top weights here in Suddle share. We've no pictures in Suddle that jump off, so we'll just keep going at.
This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on a Sunday morning. I'm Seth Merrow, joined this morning by Solly Crotty. Good morning, Solly.
Good morning, Seth. How are you?
Very good. Happy to be in the studio this morning. We'll talk a little bit about the stakes action yesterday. Nice stakes day at Belmont. We'll cover those races. We'll also take a look at the Las Barrera out in Southern California. Congratulations to our buddies at West Point out there, but we'll have that a little later on. A little handicapping as well, maybe a little Preakness preview. But top of the show, have to remember to thank our friends at Woodbine for their sponsorship. First of all, Woodbine, pick, bet, and cheer on world-class horse racing north of the border. Again, appreciate their sponsorship. But another great summer meet that we all look forward to, and it has kicked off, and I thought we'd jump in as the first few days are underway and get a little bit more of a preview of the upcoming meet. Monmouth Park, joined now by Frank Miramonte. Frank, good morning.
Good morning. How are you, gentlemen?
Very good. Happy to have you on board to talk again a little bit about, as I say, our favorite meet, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second, but I've been asking everybody the past few days that we've had on, what did you think of the Derby last week?
Well, I was very pleased with the Derby because Bob Baffert's a very good friend of mine, has supported me throughout, and even more so, a week before the debut of Justify, I was hosting the California Thoroughbred Breeders' Awards, and he had told me this great joke / story that involved the late, great Brad McKenzie. And so Bob then texted me, even though we were in the same room, because Bob's a big texter, and he said, hey, don't be telling that story, I'm telling that story. So I walked by him a little later before the thing started, and he says to me, hey, did you get my text? I said, I got your text, Bob. I got my own stories. Don't worry about a thing. But I said, I could use this story on a horse. How about some steam? And he paused for a second. He goes, hey, I'm going to run a maiden next Sunday. And if he gets in, you can bet whatever you want on him. He's a very, very good horse. And so anyway, long story longer, turns out I ended up putting a few bucks on him at 100 to 1 to win the Kentucky Derby before he ever ran. So I was rooting for him, but I would be rooting for Bob even if I had any other horse. But it was a profitable Derby, which is nice, and my main man gets his 5th Derby, which is fantastic, and couldn't be happier. And I was really a big fan of Good Magic too, so my picks ran 1-2 in the Derby. Oh, nice. So it was nice to see both of those horses fire. Good Magic is such a nice horse. I really felt he was the deserving champion last year, and I think that argument has finally disappeared from the radar.
I had Audible on top, and I thought he ran a good race too. I thought it was a good race from all the top 3.
You know what's funny? I actually, and I'm embarrassed to say this because I actually really felt that Audible, even though those were 2 good wins, I just had no respect for him at all. And that cost me $19,000 because I did not use him in 3rd, which is pretty crazy when you look back at it. But that's okay. And that's why you learn lessons every day. And you know, with those connections, that was a pretty bad pick that I wouldn't want to admit, especially on a show like yours. But that's the truth. Audible, I didn't know who that was coming up the fence. And when I saw it was audible, I just shook my head saying, you're so stubborn. Sometimes you just want to make a stand to be stubborn. I would not want to tell you the number of horses I had in third, which makes it even worse.
Oh, okay.
And you look back at some of them that are, there was a search party for some of those horses. But that's how it goes.
I was going to ask because I thought maybe there was some good handicapping there, but it sounds like maybe a spread because the 19,000, you're alluding, I'm assuming, to the superfecta. So I was going to ask how you put it Instilled Regard in the mix.
It's, I just thought he was honest enough to get a piece of it, so if he's honest enough, how could Audible not get a piece of it? But some of the horses I had in there, I had more than half the field in third and throughout Audible. But it was just one of those things that I had already been on record with friends, and you know how you just talk and it's all about, being right. And this Audible is absolutely overrated. So, and I thought he got second actually when I was watching the race, so that it was going to be a moot point. But, that was a bad beat, but it was a very good race on all levels, and I'm very pleased for Justify. What a good-looking horse, and Bob is such an amazing trainer, and he just continues to. It's almost like he's looking for a new challenge. I put a joke on Twitter one day. I said, maybe his next challenge is to try to win with a first-time starter. I mean, it's ridiculous how great he is.
It is. We're living through a special time. You don't realize it really until you step back. I mean, when I first got into the game, Wayne Lucas was doing things like this, and certainly Bob Baffert. We're living through a time now. Woody Stevens. I mean, when I first got in the game, he had that incredible streak down at Belmont. But what Bob Baffert is doing in the Derby, but what Bob Baffert's doing in the Derby is just phenomenal. And because it is Bob Baffert, not just because he's a friend of yours, but certainly a historical trend, you have to think Justify has a good shot at showing up in the Haskell.
I sure hope so. Yeah. I know we'll be trying to. The management of Monmouth will be trying to do everything they can to incent. They've already been talking about some sort of bonus and so on and so forth, and that's really what it comes down to. There are commodities out there, and that's something that we definitely want. And, of course, first things first, we're rooting for him in the Preakness, and we would love to see him here. And I know that McKinsey is going to be on the comeback trail, and perhaps this will be a race for him, but obviously the management and all the fans would love to see the Kentucky Derby winner and potential Triple Crown winner. You never know. There's only one potential Triple Crown winner this year, and his name is Justify.
And weren't you up on the podium with him in the Derby a couple years ago?
Yes, I was actually invited by the Zayat family to be there for American Pharoah. I've only been to two Kentucky Derbies, California Chrome and American Pharoah. And after the Arkansas Derby, Mr. Zayat texted me. He loved my race call. He said he cried, and he wanted me to be there for good luck. And actually, they invited me to come in, put me up for the whole week, and I really got to experience something very, very special, including the walk.
I was going to say, did you do a walk over? Yeah.
We actually, the actual walk, which is the famous walk. And then because of his religious beliefs, he doesn't get any transportation on the day, so I actually walked a couple of miles, and I wanted to experience that with him, and that was a very special moment for me, just to be there, because he and I were talking quite a bit during that time, and it's just, I know that his nerves had to be on edge because they had so many tough beats in the Derby. It was just fun. That whole experience, I was there for his final work, American Pharoah, and I had called him, of course, in the Arkansas Derby and in the Rebel, and then later I got to call him in the Haskell. That was something, that's a life experience that obviously you'll never forget, but you'll always cherish, and that was a lot of fun. And so, in the end, the funny part was they moved me. I was in the winner's circle, and they actually moved me. And Barbara Livingston caught a photo where I was pretty much photobombing American Pharoah in his own winner's circle, which was great. And then up on the podium afterward, I was in that shot wearing my Mr. Z hat, and we had a lot of fun. That was a week for the agents.
Yeah, I bet. All right, Frank, let's shift our attention now to Monmouth 2018. We'll get a couple of picks in a few minutes, but just wanted to kind of do a little preview of the meet. And I know you're handicapping, doing a pregame show occasionally and whatnot, so wanted to get some opinions. And first of all, I pulled up the leaders from last year, trainers and jockeys. And let's look at the trainers first. George Navarro kind of ran away and hid with it on the trainers side last year. He had 65 winners. Jason Service was in second with 27, so there was a pretty good gap. Patrick McBurney, Kelly Breen, Jane Sabelli. Down at top 10, Chad Brown was in there as well, Kathleen O'Connell. On the jockey side, Nick Juarez led last year pretty easily, but he's sticking in Florida. Running second, though, is Jose Ferrer, and the picture we see on the screen is Mr. Ferrer. Give us some thoughts going into the season, maybe some jockeys and trainers to watch.
I would say Jose will definitely have a good meet. He is a warrior coming back from an injury, and we congratulate him for his George Wolf Memorial Award winner. That's a very prestigious honor among the jockeys. Joe Bravo got off to a beautiful start. He had 3 winners yesterday, including the stake with a perfect ride aboard the aforementioned West Point Silks owned Burned, which was a great performance. Paco Lopez says he's going to ride here. He's ridden a few races so far, but I know he's doing a lot in New York. We have Eric Cancel, who got into the winner's circle, and Angel Arroyo, whom I became familiar much more so with watching him when I did a little work at Aqueduct this winter, and I think he's a really good rider. We're going to have a competitive jockeys race, and, of course, Antonio Gallardo. There's so many names. You don't want to miss any of the guys and gals that are out here riding, and we certainly are happy to have them. And then in the trainer category, we have Michael Stidham new, Ken Sweezy, Mario Saray, whom I think you're going to see in the winner's circle quite a bit. Keith Nations is here this year, so an expanded deal. There's a lot of optimism here at Monmouth Park, and really a lot of love for Monmouth Park. It's a great place to race. It's a great place to win races, and for me, I knew I would like it when I got here, but I like it 10 times more than I would have ever thought. It's just a great venue, and with the with the hope and the optimism of potentially finally getting another revenue stream through the sports wagering that hopefully will get cleared, I think that the future is very bright for Monmouth Park, because this track has been fighting serious competition from the neighboring states that have a huge edge, and hopefully they'll have a chance to get on a level playing field purse-wise and get back to the glory days that Monmouth Park is used to.
Yeah, just moving on to today, and yesterday was pretty nasty down there with the weather, and just if you could give us a little track update on today's card. How's the track playing out today?
Yeah, we're off the turf. I think it starts sloppy this morning, but I would imagine since it's not really raining hard that perhaps it'll dry up a little bit. And, I can tell you that in the first 2 days of the meet, it's not your typical Monmouth Park, get to the front, get to the rail, and see you later. So that's something to pay attention to when you handicap future races. The horses from the first couple of days have really been better off a little bit from off the pace or just off the pace. I'm not a big bias guy. We've talked about that many times on this show, but sometimes you just have to pay attention to what is going on. So I would imagine that it's going to be rough conditions today as well because of the fact that we're off the turf. We have several scratches on the card. But look, today, as with every day at Monmouth Park, it's basically take the short price with Jorge Navarro or try to beat a guy who's going to win a lot of races, because he is stacked up today in the entry box, as is normally the case.
And Frank, you mentioned it earlier. Just want to pull up and look at the stretch run yesterday, the Serena's Song, and it is Burned, owned in part by our friends at West Point. Joe Bravo on board. He used to say Burned's going to be the number 8 horse, and does come from out of it to win by a chart margin of 1 3/4 over A Place to Shine. The favorite, Teresa Z, runs third in here. But this was a nice performance yesterday from Burned.
It really was. It's not easy to make the move that she made going into that far turn. In between horses, it was a little bit of a tight spot. Joe found the hole, took advantage of it, and she finished up very, very nicely. The runner-up ran well as well, and Teresa Z was extremely wide turning for home, so that certainly didn't help her, but I think the right horse won when you look back at this race.
Yeah,
I don't think any trip cost any horse there.
She was a nice little player in that 3-year-old filly division last year, but looks like this year as an older filly and mare, she'll be a player as well. Frank, let's get a couple ideas for this afternoon. First, we'll take a look at the 7th race, Conditional Claimer, non-winners of 3 lifetime for 18 to 20 tags. It was scheduled 1 1/8 on the grass, but again, you say this afternoon, they are off the turf. You talked to us before the show and said the 1, the 7, and the 9 are out of race 7. What are your thoughts now in the revised race number 7 on Sunday afternoon?
I'm going to go with Mr. Saray. We just talked about him. I think he's got a well-spotted horse in number 6, Ben of the Bridge, a horse that was claimed a couple of starts back. They put him on the turf last time out, and he really hasn't done much running on the turf throughout his career. Today he'll be on a wet track, which he has actually run okay on in the past, and I think well-spotted for a barn that'll be firing. So if I'm going to talk about Mario Saray, I might as well pick him in this race, and I'm going to go with number 6, Ben of the Bridge.
Sounds good. Race number 10 this afternoon, optional claimer, non-winners of 1 other than 3/4 of a mile is the trip. Your thoughts on race number 10?
I like the 3 Act Now, who is 2 to 1 on the morning line for the Colts Neck Stables and Alan Goldberg. What a great training job he did on opening day last week with a little a DeHaas impersonation, bringing a horse back from a 2-year layoff. I like Act Now in here. I think that these guys point for the meet here. They're very close by. and this horse will be the favorite. If you're looking for a little bit of value, maybe exacta-wise, the 5 Distinctive Lady, as has been the case every year I've been here, the Quiet Winter Farm, which has been here forever, firing on all cylinders. They had a big long shot winner yesterday and a nice second-place finish. Jay Willard Thompson knows how to train. He's been doing it for a long, long time. I think Distinctive Lady will fire, but I think if Act Now gives her best, she is best. I'll go 3-5 in race 10.
Sounds good. And again, getting back to the 2018 meet, Haskell comes up on July 29th. That, of course, the highlight of the meet. But what are some of the other highlights we should look forward to?
Well, that's a big deal, and we have a lot of events. So you go to MonmouthPark.com, and you'll have an opportunity to see some of the food truck events that we have, and the Wine and Chocolate Festival, and of course, we have a lot of Jersey bred races. We have all kinds of big stakes as the meet progresses. I think the big thing to tell you about when it comes to Monmouth Park and the highlights this season is the schedule is different this year in that we'll run Saturdays, Sundays in May and June. But then in July, we are going to go ahead and add Fridays. And then in August, which will cut down my Saratoga visiting, we will be running Thursday through Sunday. I think that the horsemen felt that was a good way to get more revenue. There's a lot of interest in racing at that time. And so we're going to go Thursday through Sunday during August. It's a 52-day season. And hopefully, as this season is going, we will get the good news because we have the William Hill Sports Bar ready to rock and roll and ready to start letting people express their sports opinions at the windows here at Monmouth Park, and that would be a very nice revenue stream, and it'll also bring a lot of new fans out to the races, which is something we always strive to do. So I really feel, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, everyone's going to be optimistic, right? But in this case, the optimism is legitimate, and I think it's going to be a solid season.
Yeah, the horsemen have really kept things going, and that's great because Monmouth has been a big part of the racing scene on the East Coast in the summertime, so we're certainly rooting for them, and the decision to come on the sports betting as well. I think that'll help horse racing in a number of different venues, maybe here in New York also eventually.
Absolutely.
But you mentioned some of the events. I also want to toss out there because I went to the website yesterday, and the food truck event looks pretty good. I'm tempted to come down for that, but I'll also tout for people up in our area who may want to drive down. Coming up on June 2nd, the Pick Your Prize handicapping contest. Now, that's an expensive one. Cost a couple thousand. $1,000 to the prize pool, $1,000 to bet with. But you have a number of chances to get seats at some of the big contests. That's a good one. But looking through the schedule of handicapping contests, there are all different entry points, $250, $250, $400, and it's really a season-long kind of series of handicapping contests that people can go down for. And I highly tout those handicapping contests. I think they're a lot of fun, and they make you think differently about your handicapping sometimes.
No question. And Brian Skirka, our marketing man, does a great job. I know I've heard from many players, how well they get treated during those tournaments. And we had a nice contest yesterday. And the one that you mentioned, the Pick Your Prize deal, it's kind of like, it's almost like the Breeders' Cup in that we get all the shippers coming in, all the famous names that you see from these contests. That's kind of like a gathering. Everyone's asking me for pizza recommendations during that weekend when they come out to town because that's the who's who of all the guys coming together and fighting it out. And it's a lot of fun to have those people at the track. It certainly helps our on-track handle those days too, but you're absolutely right about that. And it's fun to watch them pick their prize because some of them have already qualified. So maybe one of the winners that's a little lower on the list gets a chance to get into a tournament that someone else has double qualified for as a result of the way it shakes out. So it's a good deal, and I know that the players look in horse racing. There's a lot of negativity in anything, right? No matter what it is in racing, whether it's takeout, contest, this, that, track conditions, biases. This tournament that you're talking about is one that I've never heard a bad word about. So come on out and enjoy that and hopefully get lucky.
Yeah, and again, if you visit the website, you can find out about all the events, but the handicapping tournament schedule too, which goes on, as I say, at various points throughout the season, at various price points also, but that Pick Your Prize is certainly a very good one. Frank, you alluded to it earlier. I was going to ask you, it sounds like maybe not so many Saratoga visits, because I could tell you enjoyed your time in Saratoga, and I was going to ask on days off, but it sounds like maybe still Mondays and Wednesdays will be open, so we can expect you for maybe a couple of Saratoga visits?
Oh, most certainly, and the best part of my Saratoga visits last year is that on my first visit, which was July 26th, I met a young lady, and we have been together ever since, my girlfriend Jennifer, so that's a beautiful thing, and that was that was just something that you never know. You know, sometimes you're in the right place at the right time, and both of us were, and we're best friends, and we're together, and it's an awesome thing. So Saratoga owes me nothing. I came off a 19-year layoff, and I came back on the right day. That's for sure.
A local woman?
She's actually, believe it or not, she's from this area. Lives in Pennsylvania, but grew up near Monmouth Park. Never came and said hello to me ever, and then suddenly felt the nerve that day to come up and say hi, and we have been together all but 4 nights since. So we're an awesome couple.
Very good.
The spa owes me nothing.
The rejuvenating
effects.
effects.
The funny thing is, that day it was my first day working on Saratoga Live. I missed the pick six in a vicious head bob in the last race. But I got the prize I was looking for that day, so it was a good thing.
That's great. And speaking of New York, I'll also ask, are you going to be making some sojourns over to Long Island and jumping in for some guest spots sparring with Andy during the summer?
I sure hope so. I sure hope so. My Talking Horses record with Andy, I'll let him tell you what the final score was, but I can tell you we squared off 4 times on Talking Horses, and Mr. Serling, he's going to need to rally to even that score. And it's so much fun with him because, he knows so much more about New York racing than I do. It's not even close. So I know that I have to really, really do my preparation. But I just love arguing with Andy and he loves it too. We really enjoy working with each other. There was one show that we did on that Belmont Live. Andy said that was his funnest show he had ever done. And he's had a lot because we were going at each other. And in the end, it was almost fitting because I had gotten him a few times. And in the last race, he beat me on a head bob we had a long argument about who was the, and I thought I had him. I actually took the lead with a firster discretionary mark, and he came back and got me on the wire. And when I left the set that day, I said to myself, you know what? This is actually like the home team deserves to win here, and so good for him because it just made the whole show perfect in that both of us left very satisfied.
Yeah, it was fun to watch you guys, so I'm looking forward to a chance to see it again this summer. I had him on yesterday, and I said, you know what, in the Peter Pan, I kind of like Blended Citizen, and he laughed at me. Who laughed last, Andy? Who laughed last? It's always fun to talk to him, and it's always fun to wind up on the top side. Yeah.
I like the Michael Matz horse, and that was not good for me.
Well, I have to say,
I would have never had Blended Citizen. That's the funny part. I would have been laughing with him.
I have to say, I put High North on top coming out of Oaklawn, but I put Blended Citizen right underneath because I had interviewed Doug O'Neill earlier, and as I interviewed him, I kind of looked at the horse, and that race in the Bluegrass, he ran 5th, but it was a lifetime best buyer figure, so I kind of thought, maybe moving in the right direction. I'll give him a shot, put him in.
Kyle Frey, I got to give him I've watched him. He's a young kid. He's got immense talent. He's been through a lot in his life, and his longtime agent passed away not long ago, and mentor, and so this was a very special win for him, and I couldn't be happier for that young man. He's a good kid.
Yeah, they interviewed him after the race, and I'm not that familiar with him, admittedly. He's a West Coast guy, but it was nice that the O'Neill team has kept him on the horse and given him a shot. Yeah. And Doug, when I talked to him yesterday, said if they run well, maybe the Belmont Stakes, so maybe Kyle will get a shot in the Belmont Stakes.
He deserves it. He's a really good kid and an excellent rider. And like I said, you can look at his Facebook stuff. He's got a lot of emotion to him, and he's been through quite a bit, especially in the last year. So that made me happy. In fact, at the end of when they were in the final furlong and my horse was backing up, I was definitely rooting for that horse to get up for Kyle and, of course, Doug and everyone, but mostly for Kyle there because that was that's like his big moment in his whole career so far.
All right, Frank, we'll let you go. Really appreciated the visit this morning. And, of course, with Monmouth underway, we'll check in again as the season progresses. But good luck to you and everybody down in New Jersey on the 2018 meet. Thanks to both of you for supporting Monmouth Park. Frank Miramonte from Monmouth. We'll take a break. When we come back again, nice stakes action at Belmont yesterday. Also the Las Barrera out at Santa Anita. We'll recap all of those a little later on. Some handicapping. Stay tuned.
Dirty windows? Don't do it yourself. Call Clean Image, your window cleaning professionals, and enhance the look of your business or home without the worry. Clean Image pledges nothing less than 100% customer satisfaction. It's guaranteed. Homes, offices, bed and breakfast, vacation homes, and more. Clean Image has cleaned them all. Carpet and floor cleaning, pressure washing, and janitorial services are also available. Call today, 446-1397. That's 446-1397. Online at clean-image.net.
You know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots. In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances, and live streaming. Wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. I'm Seth Merrill. Sully Crotty also in on this Sunday. We'll take a look back at the Belmont races, and we'll kick things off with the Man of War. Went off, what was the eventual off time? 7:22. And if you tuned in late yesterday, you realized, obviously, that everything was moved back. If you missed the reason, the jockeys delayed the start of the racing yesterday at Belmont before the first race by about a half an hour as they discussed contractual situations with the Belmont, the NYRA management. And Dave Grenig was on it, and because everybody was kind of wondering as the horses circled in the paddock for the first race and nothing was happening as we got close to post time, what was happening. And Dave Grenig tweeted out, meeting between the jocks and NYRA. And at first you thought track surface because it was off yesterday, but then Grenig said, no, it's contractual things. And they were concerned about the scale of weights and some other things. They haven't had a contract in New York for a while, since the beginning of the year, I guess. And so they wanted to delay things to kind of emphasize the situation. And Grenig eventually put out an article about it. The NYRA management was a little upset because they had been dealing with the National Jockeys Organization, and so to have then the New York jockeys themselves come in and kind of want to negotiate, it made it a confusing situation, I guess. And on a big day like this, obviously, nobody was thrilled about it. The jockey said there was never any doubt that they were going to ride. They just kind of wanted to emphasize their position. So anyway, was the situation that delayed things yesterday. But at about 7:22, about a half an hour after the scheduled start, the Man of War did go off. And High Happy, the number 7, wins. I liked High Happy. If you listen to the handicappers report yesterday, Brian Addo said single High Happy, and number 7 High Happy does get it done as the 9-5 favorite. Sadler's Joy runs second. The number 2 horse, and number 9 One Go All Go runs third in here. But off of the big win down at Gulfstream last time with a 105 buyer, High Happy puts a couple of nice performances together. I had Andy Serling on yesterday. He just wondered if maybe that race down at Gulfstream, and I think it's a legitimate question, was run over the hard turf course down at Gulfstream Park, and maybe with a little more give, and particularly with the weather yesterday in New York, whether High Happy would follow up and run as well. Question answered.
Absolutely, and I had One Go All Go in that race, and I kind of knew I was in trouble opening quarter, and then slowed down a little bit, and had a nice little closing kick towards the end there, but when you saw High Happy coming and looked a little bit more forwardly placed than we have seen in the past, and so that was just a perfect trip by Luis Saez there. Kind of knew at the top of the stretch, when I was going backwards and High Happy kept coming, had a lot of horse left, I was in trouble there, but that was a really nice ride there, and it's good to see Luis Saez get in the winner's circle after we've seen him in the winner's circle so often down in South Florida.
Yeah, he's going to be fun to watch up north as the season progresses and see what he can do, because that was just a phenomenal Gulfstream meet he had. All right, a little bit earlier, and I talked about it with Frank Miramati, had Andy on yesterday, and Andy kind of poop-pod my thought that Blended Citizen would be interesting. Admittedly, I put High North on top coming out of the win in the stakes race at Oaklawn. And High North kind of threatened throughout the whole race, but just didn't have any real punch in the stretch. High North, the number 6, runs 4th. But right under High North, I put Blended Citizen. Coming out of a 5th in the Bluegrass, and right before that had won the JR Stakes over at Turfway. And I thought, you know what, you look down the PPs, and Blended Citizen's coming late here, the number 4 horse over number 1 Core Beliefs. Number 3 Just Whistle will run 3rd. But I thought coming out of a string of past performances that kind of indicated maybe more turf or synthetic, folks would kind of shy away a little bit. This horse did pay $11.40. It was a little bit longer on the morning line of 6-1. As Frank said, Kyle Frey came in from Southern California to ride. But the Bluegrass, and Andy yesterday on the pregame show said, don't believe the comment after the past performance of the Bluegrass, which said steadied, altered, and stretch. I'm not going to completely disagree with Andy. I think if you looked at that, you might have had more of a thought it was more of a situation than it was. But I'll kind of cut the middle ground. It maybe wasn't as bad as that would lead you to believe, but I don't think it was nothing. Andy kind of said nothing happened in the Bluegrass. I think if you watch the stretch run of the Bluegrass, and I pulled it up, the Sporting Chance makes that move where he eventually gets disqualified, which then bothers Free Drop Billy, and he comes out. And I think Blended Citizen has his momentum stopped by Free Drop Billy. It wasn't egregious, but I think it was enough to stop his momentum for a couple of strides. So I thought it was a good fifth with maybe a little bit of trouble in the Bluegrass. But as I said earlier, the more I looked at it while I interviewed Doug O'Neill, that 88 fire in the Bluegrass was a career best buyer. Doug O'Neill, I don't think, was overly confident in his interview with me, but I think they showed confidence that dirt was okay for this horse. So I thought Blended Citizen was a little bit interesting in here. I used that one over Core Beliefs, who I had down in the third spot, coming off the third place finish most recently behind Justify and Bolt d'Oro in the Santa Anita Derby. So he was kind of logical and did go off as the 2-1 favorite. But nice late run from Blended Citizen to get up. And again, Doug O'Neill yesterday when I talked to him said perhaps the Belmont Stakes. And you would think with a good run over the track and with that style, that'll be the next stop.
I mean, I don't see why not. And, you know, the horse that did not have a perfect trip whatsoever and was really wide on that turn and really just kept picking off horses one by one, and it looked like Core Beliefs was home, but then Blended Citizen just came a little bit late and started picking off Just Whistle, who ran a good race as well with Joel Rosario. So, you know, you got that kind of halfway down the stretch, and you just saw everyone was kind of running in the same position, but Kyle Frey was coming a little bit more than Just Whistle was and High North. So it really was a nice ride, and I don't see why they wouldn't shoot for the Belmont Stakes. As you said, the horse looked great on the track, and just keep the horse in New York for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, once you get a win over the track, and, you know, as I say, with that style, you'd have to think that'll be the game plan going forward. I'll be interested to see what they do with the horse, though. They go back to Southern California and train over there, or they stick in New York. I'm guessing because Doug O'Neill is really based.
Right.
Although I think he has a string at Churchill down. I suppose they could go to Churchill, but once you put on the once you get on the plane, I guess it doesn't make any difference whether you're going all the way across or part way across. All right, the Bogey a little bit earlier. These are the ladies on the grass at a 1 1/16 Grade 3 event for a couple $100,000. I liked Inflexibility. I liked My Impression. I put Raving Beauty in the third spot, just as kind of an unknown, but an unknown from Michael Dubb and Chad Brown. Raving Beauty hadn't been seen since October over in Italy. Andy kind of said it on the pregame show, I think it was, where he kind of shies away from the European horses a little bit if it's Italy and Germany. You know, you get England and France, there's where the class is. Italy and Germany maybe a little more questionable. And so I kind of agreed with that, but given the connections, Michael Dubb and Chad Brown had to have it in my mix. But boy, she looked good here. Raving Beauty is the number 6 horse, wins by a chart margin of 3 as the second choice at 5-2. Inflexibility, who I put on top, runs second, the number 2 horse, and Lido, the number 4, runs third. My Impression, the number 1. And Andy said, when I said yesterday when I had Andy on, I thought she would run better in the second start of the season than she had, and certainly what we saw last year was good enough. And Andy said, you know what, that seasonal debut may indicate that just as a 5-year-old mare, she's kind of turned the corner a little bit. And with mares, that can happen. And given the 6th place finish yesterday, there was some trouble. So I wouldn't, and I doubt Shug will. I wouldn't give up on this horse after only 2, but it may indicate that, you know, she's kind of turned the corner a little bit. We'll see. But she's now thrown in a couple of clunkers. Again, that's My Impression. Flexibility, though, was a good second. So it was a Chad Brown exacta at $18 if you like the Chad.
Yeah, and just Chad on the turf, really, it's just unbelievable what he's doing, and everywhere with every horse coming in. Doesn't matter where they're coming from, doesn't matter where the meet is. It seems like he's just taking a lot of money with his horses on the odds boards, and when they hit the winner circle as well, he's taking money there. So another exacta for Chad, just like at Keeneland a couple weeks ago. He had the trifecta with Sister Charlie and then 4-Star Crook, and so that was nice to see for Chad. But really, I just think it speaks of Chad and how well his horses are doing to start out halfway through the 2018 racing season. And I think he's winning at like a 32% clip, which is just ridiculous with the amount of starts he gets.
Yeah, it's incredible, and he does it at the highest level of the game. And this one, certainly comes over from Europe. It's a 5-year-old who had a 17 race career in Europe, came over and obviously adds Lasix coming over here, was racing over in Europe and on the scale of weights there, 127, 125, 122, so may have also appreciated the 115 under Irad Ortiz. That was certainly a little break for that one. All right, a little bit earlier, the Beaugay for 4-year-olds and up, going 6 furlongs, $150,000. As I said, the Run Happy, this is in the 8th race. The Run Happy field of 5 after the scratch of Green Grotto, but in the Run Happy, it was a competitive field of 5. I had Skylar Scramjet on top, great stuff in the 2nd spot, and Westwood in the 3rd spot, but it will be kind of flip-flopping things a little bit. Westwood, the number 2, wins for Kieran and Godolphin as the 5-2 second choice. The 4-5 favorite, Skylar Scramjet, good second place in this race, the number 1 horse. And running 3rd is number 5, Always Sunshine. They're all kind of right there, but really not threatening Westwood late. Westwood, fairly lately raced 4-year-old. This was only the 8th career start, the 4th win, and the 2nd try in Stakes Company. After the race, Karen was interviewed and said maybe they pressed a little too much in the Commonwealth down at Keeneland in the previous start, and so they kind of sat off a little bit the early pace and then took the lead about halfway through. And again, won by 3/4 of a length without anybody really threatening late. And you would think some good things ahead for this horse, but it was interesting. Kieran said, it's a gelding, so we don't have to shop around for the grade 1s or anything. With a gelding, we're not making a stud career, so they'll pick their spots with Westwood, and I assume make some nice dough. John Velasquez was on board. He had a good day yesterday. Yeah, he had a great day yesterday. And going into the gate, Westwood was the favorite, I think, at 2-1, and then Skylar Scramjet was also 2-1. But when the gates opened, I saw Westwood at 5-2. I thought that was because I had Westwood in my mix and then in my pick 5, and I'm like, well, that's a steal. This horse is 5-2, and the 1 took a lot of late money, went off 4-5. So I liked it as a better, and I don't think, I thought it was more accurate at 2-1. But whenever you can get 5-2 on that horse, we'll take it all day as a better. But really nice day for Johnny, as you said, and that was a nice, perfect trip as well. Yeah, and again, congratulations to John Velasquez on the good day yesterday, on a big day down at Belmont. Finally, stakes kicked off earlier on the card with the Vagrancy for the ladies, going 6.5 furlongs in a grade 3 worth $200,000. I had Holiday Disguise on top. She was a little bit disappointing, running 3rd as the 7-5 favorite. Kirby's Penny I had down the 4th spot, 8-1 on the morning line, went off at 7-1. The aforementioned John Velasquez on board, and a nice late run from Kirby's Penny gets it done. $16.20 on this horse. Running 2nd was Shalan, who I also had right up in my mix, and Holiday Disguise, the number 6 horse. Again, he's as the 7-5 favorite, does disappoint a little bit, but nice run from Kirby's Penny. And as Maggie said post-race, Wesley Ward lost this horse about a year ago at Keeneland, put the horse in for 20. The horse was claimed. They came back a couple of weeks later at the 40 level. Wesley Ward dips right back in, and owner Spellman, Kent Spellman. So they took a $20,000 hit on the claim situation there, but all's well that ends well as they wind up getting a graded stake, 6 races later. Yeah, that is right. And Kirby's Penny, really nice performance there. And we did the stakes preview, Mike and I had Shalan on top with Paco Lopez, who I thought ran a great race there at 3-1, almost 4-1.
And I thought the Lindas, looking at the Linda entries there, with the 6 and the 1, I thought they were a little beatable in that spot, and I knew they would take a lot of money. So I had Kirby's Penny third, but I did have the 3 on top. So and it turns out that they were just a little bit over bet on the odds board, just I think because the credit Linda's had this year as well. She's been training phenomenal too. So and those were 2 solid horses, but really nice ride again by John Velasquez there. And I thought Paco ran a great race as well with the 3 horse. So that was a good stakes race to kick off a great day down at Belmont.
Yeah, it was really a good stakes day down at Belmont. Racing is back in New York, folks, as the weather has turned, and some good racing this coming summer season down at Belmont. Let's go over to Southern California and take a look at one more stake, the Las Barrera. Talked to Doug O'Neill, and again, mainly we're concentrating on Blended Citizen and the Peter Pan, but we also got some thoughts on King Cause. Looked a little bit up against it. Numbers-wise, the buyer was going to have to improve for King Cause. King Cause winds up 5th in the field of 6, but at 32-1, so it wasn't a surprise there. But on the win end in the Las Barrera, and again, this is for 3-year-olds, grade 3 event going 7 furlongs. You see the West Point Silks there, and it is number 1, Kanthaka, getting it done as the 6-5 favorite. Beautiful shot, the number 7 second. And number 4 running 3rd in here. But Jerry Hollendorfer and West Point Thoroughbreds put a grade 3 stakes win among 3-year-olds on the resume of Kanthaka. Nice run for this one, who had certainly shown some talent. Won the San Vicente earlier this year out in Southern California, 3rd behind Mackenzie and Bolt d'Oro in the San Felipe. Tossed in a little bit of a dud in the Bluegrass, but back out to California to put another win on the resume for Kanthaka. And again, congratulations to our friends at West Point Thoroughbreds.
Just a huge congratulations to them. We always like seeing them in the winner's circle. And, you know, the Bluegrass, that was just a really competitive field. And we were talking about it earlier with one of the other horses that Blended Citizen. So it just shows the competitive field. And we just saw what Blended Citizen did yesterday as well. And just Flavien Prat, he's like Johnny V in a sense. And he could go anywhere and win. And he's been doing that. And that was just... He's just another jockey that I really like watching. There's a handful of jockeys that I like watching, and he's one of them I really like watching. Whenever you have him on a horse, no matter the odds or anything, you always have a shot. So we'd like to see him come back to New York. He was here for Wood Day, and I think had a couple wins on that card.
You guys, or we were down there. No, you guys were down there. Yeah. And speaking of down there, you're going to be down at the Preakness, right?
Absolutely. I'll be at the Preakness, and really looking forward to it. And it's going to be a great card. It's always is a great card. Hopefully the weather's good right now. It seems it's going to rain Friday and Saturday, so yeah, hopefully that changes.
Keep our fingers crossed that does change. And we'll talk a little Preakness when we come back from this break and do a little handicapping for Sunday afternoon as well. So we'll take another break. When we come back, as I say, Preakness thoughts, handicapping for Sunday afternoon. Stay tuned.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Sign up today for Capital OTB's handicapping series and plan your trip to Las Vegas.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3, MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBPet.com. Log on today.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on a Sunday morning. As always, we'll do a little handicapping for this afternoon. Before we do that, though, just wanted to preview a week out, the Preakness Stakes. And I'm not sure I put it up on Equidaily. You can check, but it will be after I get off the show. I'll make sure it's up. There are past performances available for the Preakness contenders, so you can take a look at those free PPs. And again, I'll make sure I link them up after the show. But Sully, they're currently listing potentially 11 contenders in those past performances for the Preakness. Diamond King, who scratched from the Peter Pan yesterday, is scheduled to go in the Preakness. He's one that I liked from the end of last year, the Heft Stakes, right at the end of December down at Laurel. Subsequently ran third in the Swale and then ran first in the Federico Tessio. Given the Tessio performance, I was surprised they were entered in the Peter Pan, but now they have opted for the more logical position of the Preakness coming out of a win in the Tessio. That said, boy, it's going to be tough. And I mean, you look at these contenders, and traditionally, the horses that come out of the Derby are the horses that do well in the Preakness. And you like to look for something clever. And Diamond King might have been the clever one for me, given the way I've liked this horse. Steve Asmussen potentially has Tenfold coming in, who ran 5th in the Arkansas Derby after a couple of wins to start the career. Todd is potentially bringing Pony Up in off a third-place finish in the Lexington behind My Boy Jack. So there are some alternatives, but you look at the numbers and you just look at the potential talent levels. It seems like Justify is going to have to go back, and these horses are going to have to step up a little bit. I'm kind of stuck, particularly if Chad comes back with good magic. Bolt d'Oro, if you're on the Bolt d'Oro bandwagon, I think you maybe hang your hat on didn't like the off-track. Right. But if Justify and good magic comes, just from a handicapping angle, you have to tilt pretty strongly in that direction. From a betting angle, maybe you play around a little bit, particularly with some of the picks, and hope there is a crazy upset, because I think you'll get paid. And there are a couple of options, but I think, like handicapping-wise, again, seems like it probably goes through the top 2 of the Derby.
Yeah, I don't see any other way around that, and just the way Justify looked, and in that field, it's not as good as a field as the Derby. I mean, that was probably the best Derby field I have seen in my lifetime. So that's still a nice field, and I think the pole position will come out with it. And if Quip runs like he did in the Tampa Bay Derby, and they kind of shifted their attention to the Preakness, so I think he's going to run with Justify and make him earn it, which, we saw Justify win at a 45 fraction, which is not going to be a problem. So I think it might set up for a little bit of a price underneath Justify. So that's why I think Quip is just such a key horse in that race. So I'm really excited to go down there and see that race. So never been to Pimlico, never been to the Preakness, but it's going to be awesome, and I can't wait. So just follow along, and hopefully I can do some call-ins here in the studio, and we'll keep you covered with all the social media aspects of it as well.
Looking forward to it. So travel safe, make some money.
Absolutely.
All right. Speaking of making money, let's make some money this afternoon. I'll take a look at some action at Belmont. Sully will take a little action at our friends at Woodbine. And Woodbine today, some stakes action. And we kick things off with the New Providence, race number 3 at Woodbine. And it's a 4-horse field. But I assume you just pulled this up because of the presence of Pink Lloyd, who you just don't see this. You don't see horses, particularly in stakes action, put together strings like this. Went 8 for 8 last year in stakes races and was named the Canadian Horse of the Year. And Pink Lloyd comes back for the second start of 2018 after having started the season, continuing the win streak with a stakes race win in the Cartier last time. 4-horse field, Pink Lloyd kind of lays over the field. You looking for an upset?
Nah, I just think it's going to be tough to beat Pink Lloyd. You kind of said everything about it. The horse has won 8 in a row, some really nice stakes against some really nice horses at Woodbine. So, you know, I just picked this race early in the card. It's a stakes race early in the card, a pretty nice card, competitive card at Woodbine this afternoon, and just wanted really to highlight Pink Lloyd there. Won the 9 on the morning line.
Won the 9 on the morning line. How often do you see that?
I mean, I saw it one other time when I think Zenyatta was won the 9 one time. So that's just the direction I was going. But underneath, I'm going to go with the 1. You get a little bit of a price there, and if you can get a decent exacta with the 1 to 9 on top, I put the 1 underneath there. And just a horse that really, I think, has been improving throughout their career there. And, you know, Kathy Sutherland is up, so let's see if he can get it going there for Sutherland a little bit. And the horse does have some speed. Pink Lloyd obviously is the speed of the speed, but doesn't get to the lead, will not affect Pink Lloyd. But let's see if we can get a price home underneath with the 12 horse and just to hang on a little bit. Like we did see 2 starts back and 3 starts back with sprinting. I thought well at the 6 furlongs. So let's give this horse a chance. Has 3 wins here in the 5 starts and is running the money 4 or 5 times. Seems to like the Woodbine surface as well as running the money 6 times in 10 starts. So let's get a price underneath Pink Lloyd in race number 3. I went 3 and 1 in the pretty nice stakes early on in the card at Woodbine.
I will say, and I don't think this is as playable as yesterday, and I had the PPs or the chart here earlier, but Dream It Is was in the stake yesterday at a short price. The horse that won the first 3 starts of the career won the Schuylerville, and then came back and kind of faded a little bit in the seasonal debut this year. But Dream It Is took a lot of action yesterday. I played a late pick 3. I like Dream It Is, and I said as I signed off on OTB Live yesterday, tune in and watch because she's a nice horse, and what she did last year coming down and winning the Schuylerville and whatnot, she's worth paying attention to again. But I played a little pick 3 against her yesterday, just if something crazy happened, and sure enough, she runs 3rd in that stake yesterday, and a $22 horse won, and I played a 20-cent pick 3, and I wound up paying $90, a 20-cent pick 3, yeah. You know, because you beat the big, and so if you want to fool around at the 20-cent increment, if you wanted to take a shot against Pink Lloyd, you can put together a tiny little ticket, and I guarantee if Pink Lloyd is beaten, the picks will blow up.
It'll pay huge. Yeah. And the nice thing about the wagering at Woodbine, that they have 20-cent pick 5s, and I believe last Sunday it paid $38,000 for 20 cents. So it really is a nice wagering there. And you know, I'm with you. I like betting rolling 20-cent pick 3s there. They're not expensive, and you can get some prices home. So.
And again, I'm not saying Pink Lloyd will be beaten. I think it's a huge. He deserves to be 1 to 9 in that race. But again, for a few bucks, you could take the shot. If crazy things happen sometimes, the horse, you know, the jockey falls off at the start of the race. That's not the horse's talent. That's just, but you get paid either way if you take a shot against. All right.
Yeah, so Seth's going to take a look at Belmont. And race number 2 at Belmont Park, this is a state-bred maiden claimer. And they'll be going 6.5 furlongs on the main track.
I went 5, 1, 7, and 2 in the second at Belmont, and we'll see if we get the 5 or the 8 to 1 on the 5 horse. There goes Jose, but it's a Robertino Diodoro runner for drawing away. That tossed in a clunker, admittedly, in the career debut back in April, but that was at maiden special weight class level. Comes back for a $25,000 tag today, showing a first-time gelding signal. So I think there's reason to believe this horse could improve. Overall, I think this is a weak field. So I don't think this horse has to improve to the level of being some kind of a world beater. I think this horse just has to move forward in what is, I think, potentially a logical step forward. It is Robertino Diodoro. I'll look for some improvement given the situation, and the 8 to 1 price is interesting. We'll see if that holds up. I think given the first start, I think that price can hold up. But again, with the name Diodoro, maybe the betting public will click that down a little bit. So we'll put There Goes Jose on top. Barefoot Angel in the second spot off the past couple of races, which indicate buyers moving in the right direction, should be primed for continuing in that direction. Jose Ortiz on board. Guy American Dream in the third spot. Nice run from this one last time as well. Now gets half a step of class relief off of that, but certainly that last one signals this horse seems to be in some good improved and improving form potentially. An Irish Marauder in the third spot. 5-2 on the morning line. Interested to see where the betting public goes, because certainly the last race, the number fits with this group, but the last race was a couple of years ago. It was in November of 2016. So fitness becomes a question mark there. But given the prices, maybe we'll do a little exacta box here if that morning line holds up, particularly on the number 5, our top pick. There goes Jose at the 8-1 price. But in the second at Belmont, I have it 5, 1, 7, and 2. All right, race number 7 at Woodbine today. $37,500 to $40,000 claimers. At Woodbine in the 7th, they'll go 1 mile and a 16th.
I went 5, 2, 3, and 6 here. I think it might be tough to beat the 2-1 choice here. Horse that really, I think needs to, needs to improve a little bit, but was in allowance company the last 2 starts, and 1-for-1 over the Woodbine surface. I think really appreciated that going to the synthetic. Ran okay at Oaklawn Park 2 starts back, and it's just Norm McKnight. He's winning 57% of his starts at Woodbine in the early stages of the meet. He's got 12 wins and 21 starts, and he's running the money every single time in the 21 starts. So Norm McKnight, great Oaklawn meet, and now he's doing it up in Canada as well. Number 2 is just a really interesting horse here. That's Max's Miracle Journey, 6-1 on the morning line. And they take the blinkers off this horse. We haven't seen this horse since December, and the horse has been working extremely well with some nice bullet works posted in there. The last work really wasn't great up to the standards we have seen, but really nice work on April 28th, and then a really nice work, obviously, with the bullet workouts on April 20th, a 1 out of 41 there. So let's take a shot here with this horse. A horse that loves to run underneath at Woodbine. Has run in the money 9 times in 15 starts. 6 of those were places. So did run in some stakes company at Woodbine last time out, some higher optional claimers, and really did not run bad in some of those optional claimers. And then number 3 is Florida 1. Mark Cassidy trains the horse. Patrick Husbands is up, and Patrick, he's great start to his meet as well, winning 26% of his races. And this horse does have a little bit of a closing kick. With the 5 and possibly the 2 going to get to the lead based off some of these works it's posted, maybe get to a new running strategy. The closing kick here from Florida 1 could be dangerous at a really nice price with a really red-hot jockey here. Horse is going to make the fourth start, the mile and 16th. I think it can handle that distance. It does have a win doing that distance, and just last time out, going to give a little bit of a pass. Going to the synthetic, I think, should help. This horse does have 3 wins on the synthetic surface. So race number 7, really nice claiming race. I went 5, 2, 3, and 6. Moving on to Belmont Park. Race number 6, this is a maiden special weight, and they'll be going a mile on the main track.
For me, 2, 4, 8, and 7, it's Chad Brown, it's Klarovich, dominant strategy. First-time starter by Bernardini. I think there's some breeding here. They paid over $500,000 for this horse. So you have the win-early connections. You have some win-early breeding. It's Chad. We'll look for this one to get it done in the career debut. 4-1 on the morning line. We'll see if that holds up. If it does, I'll take the $10 on a Chad Klarovich firster. Second spot, Rugby Man. By Tappet, there's some breeding there. This one kind of lived up to it in the career debut. Ran 3rd, but it was a pretty good 3rd. Jose Ortiz on board that day down at Keeneland. Jose Ortiz on board again this afternoon on the return to New York, or the move to New York. I guess been training down at Fairhill for Grand Motion. But Jose Ortiz has gotten to that point in the career where he's one of these guys, and I mean, there was the days, going back to my early days, Angel Cordero was one of those guys, certainly Angel Cordero at Saratoga, Jerry Bailey for years at Saratoga, where you have to look through the race for Jose Ortiz and put a little circle around him, because you have to consider virtually everything he rides. And I think Rugby Man at the 5-2 coming off the good effort certainly was going to attract attention to begin with, but with Jose Ortiz returning on board again, gets that much more juice. Candy Graham in the 2nd spot, and the 3rd spot. Came up from Gulfstream and ran a good second last time. That was off a second in the previous start at Gulfstream. So a couple of good finishes for Jimmy Jerkins in the two most recent races. Should fit in well with this group this afternoon. Campaign in the 4th spot, $675,000 purchase. Moved into the Chad Brown barn, debuted last year at Saratoga, ran an okay second behind Lone Sailor, a well-beaten second, but that was in a field of 9, having closed from the back of the pack to get second. Now comes back. Obviously, there had to be some kind of a ding in that we haven't seen this horse since last September, but it is Chad Brown. It is a horse that looked good in the career debut. Have to have that one in the mix also. 6th race at Belmont, 2, 4, 8, and 7. Race number 8 at Woodbine, another stakes race. This one's kind of fun. These are the 3-year-olds up at Woodbine going 1 1/16 in the Marine. Grade 3 event. Now, this isn't limited to Ontario breds, but there are Ontario breds in here, which means the potential is here to see some of these horses come back in the Queen's Plate. The horse that intrigues me, however, I had him on top in the Wando last time, but it was disqualified, Mock Tree. This one's a Kentucky bred for Mark Casse, but did run well in that Wando to start the meet. Comes back in the Marine. But what are your thoughts in race 8 at Woodbine?
Yeah, it really is a nice race here, and I have Mock Tree right in the mix here, and you know it is a competitive race. I went 7, 8, 3, and 1 here, and I'm going to take a shot with some 2 horses on top with the 7 and 8. You're going to get a prices there, and that's ahead by a century. Horse does have a little bit of a closing kick. Has ran 4 stakes races in the lifetime, and really has ran competitively in all of those. Last time out, took a little bit of money, went off 4-1. And a nice stakes race at Woodbine. I think second off the layup, this horse will run much, much better. And we haven't seen the horse since November. Came back in April. Has been working okay. Ran a nice fit. Took some money, as I said, that day. And I think the second off the layup, this horse could be very dangerous, especially with a little bit of a closing kick on a route race that has a lot of speed in it. Number 8, same type of issue here. Just a really balanced horse on paper. Going to be better off the layoff as well. And this horse ran a very nice third behind Mock Tree and Inge, some familiar company here. So let's take a shot here at 12-1. This horse did nothing wrong at 6-1 last time. Ran a nice third behind a horse that's probably going to go off as the favorite with Mark Casse and Patrick Husbands. The horse does have a little bit of a closing kick. We'd like to see a trip, ideally to last time out from a stalking roll. Showed nice closing speed in a grade 3 event in October at Woodbine as well. And then number 3 and 1 I have underneath. Number 3 is going to be your favorite unless the Casse horse takes some money. But this horse lost by a neck last time. Ran in a grade 3 event out of town last time. Lost the Blended Citizen. So, you know, ran 11th by 20 lengths there. But Blended Citizen and Pony Up is going to go to the Preakness, we think, for Todd. And Pony Up came in second that day behind Blended Citizen. So this horse is raced against much better. Going back to synthetic, I think the horse will appreciate. He just ran okay at Woodbine, did win a grade 3 event last October as well. So this horse is raced against much better, deserving 2-1 favorite. But on the feature Sunday afternoon at Woodbine, I went 7, 8, 3, and 1. Moving on to race number 7 at Belmont Park. This is an optional claimer. Non-winners a 1 other than, and they'll be going 1 1/16 on the turf.
7th race at Belmont, I have it 6, 9, 2, and 1. I put Salsa Bella on top for Chad Brown. Comes in off a couple of stakes down in Florida last time. Tossed in a little bit of a dud in the Florida Oaks at Tampa, but a good second in the Swedish Chant just before that behind The Way I Am, who was just super down in Florida in this 3-year-old filly turf division this winter. So I'm going back to that race. I'm going to kind of draw a line through the Florida Oaks and hope we get back to the performance just before that. It's Chad, it's Michael Dubb, and a horse clearly with some talent. Salsa Bella on top. Punked in the second spot for Chad Brown. Javier Castellano on board. Started the career over in Ireland, then laid off from August until April, came back at Keeneland. Closed, nice close from the back of the pack to run 4th in an allowance event at Keeneland. I think that race should set the horse up well for Sunday afternoon. 3rd spot, our friends at West Point Thoroughbreds and Best Performance, the number 2 horse. nice string of stakes races underneath, so maybe just getting back to the proper level for this one and the non-winners of one other than category. But some of those stakes performances were very, very good, including a really nice second-place finish in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly Turf at Del Mar last year. So this is a horse with a lot of class. Jose Ortiz on board. And again, West Point yesterday with a couple of nice stakes wins on either side of the country. So we'll see what Best Performance can do. And in the fourth spot, Ferdinanda, who is in nice improving form for a Barclay tag, comes out of a close-up second-place finish in a stakes race. So this is almost a stakes quality allowance non-winners of one, other than race number 7 at Belmont. I have it 6, 9, 2, and 1. All right, let me hit on some of the promos and events here at Capital OTB before we wrap up. Coming up on Thursday, May 17th, we have a couple of online contests, online bankrolls. The Harness Online Knockout Challenge comes up on Thursday, May 17th. If you're a sulky side player, check out the Online Harness Knockout Challenge. The website, capitalotb.com, has more information. Also on Thursday, a $100 Naira Pick 5 bankroll. You can also check out how you can participate there at capitalotb.com. Thursday is also Fan Appreciation Day for our friends at the Side Door Cafe. If you're a patron there, swing by this Thursday at 1 o'clock. And throughout the afternoon, we have our chance to say thank you to you with a Fan Appreciation Day at the Side Door Cafe. Next Saturday, right here at the Clubhouse Racebook, Preakness Day, of course. First 200 folks through the door get a collector's glass. You can also reserve a seat if you would like to choose to do that. Get in touch with us. Otherwise, just come on down and enjoy all the action here at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Preakness Day next Saturday. Bet 50, Get 50 continues through the month of May. Sign up for a brand new account. Bet 50 in before the end of the month, and you get $50 put into your brand new account by Capital OTB. Thanks to our friends at Woodbine for their sponsorship. Woodbine, pick, bet, and cheer on great racing north of the border. Woodbine. All right, Sully, that wraps things up. Again, travel safe. We look forward to your checking in throughout the afternoon.
Can't wait. I'm really excited for it.
Cash some tickets.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Help us cash some tickets, even better.
That is the plan as well. So we'll see how it goes.
Sully Crotty, Seth Merrill on this Sunday morning edition of Racing Across America. We wish you good luck this afternoon. I'll be back in a little less than a couple hours with OTB Live. We will see you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.